Is it time? Yes. Hello. Welcome to this tutorial session. There are some old faces I see, but also a lot of new faces, I hope. Just to get a feeling for new versus old, those who know what in this geek convention somebody in tie is standing up here, please raise your hand. No? Nobody knows what this tie guy is doing here? Okay. Those who have no idea who I am, please raise your hand. Okay, good. Almost all new guys. I'll be doing an introduction to the IETF tools, and the reason I'm doing this is because I want you to know about them, of course, but also because I wrote at least a greater part of them. So don't believe that I'm just a marketing geek or so, because I'm absolutely not. Let's place this. This is actually, these are web pages, and if it will click, hello? Yes. At the top there is the URL at which these slides are. If you want to, you can type in that URL and follow along on your screens, because we will be showing in the slides live views of the actual tools that you can use. So feel welcome to grab that if you want to. Is it visible? Can you see it? Shall I read it? People are typing, so I guess they can see it.
There's a sign-in sheet going around. You don't have to sign it. Your email address will only be used to send you this URL, the link of where the slides are. And it also gives us a count of how many people were at the tutorial session.
Okay, next. Just click. Yeah. So we'll be looking at a number of different groups of tools. Document search, display and print tools, draft preparation tools, because I assume that everyone will want sooner or later to write drafts. Working group tools, ISG, if you write the draft and get it accepted and going through the process, it will end up with ISG. You maybe want to see how you can get insight into what actually happens when they process it. We'll be looking at meeting-related tools, how to find agendas, the meeting minutes, the slides, etc. There are some nice notification services, and I'll talk a little bit about tools to build tools. Very little, there's no slides on that, and we'll have a question session. So at this time, we're not in an ideal situation, because what you need or may want to use actually resides on the three different URLs. There's the plain www.ietf.org URL with mostly plain pages. There's the IETF data tracker, which is at datatracker.itfs.org. This is where more and more interactive tools will move. And then there's the tools.itfs.org, which is a site I put up many years ago when I got really tired of not having any help in preparing documents and doing GIFs and whatnot. So for some tools, we have managed to migrate them to the data tracker from the tool site. I'll be showing you both. They never look quite the same. We're taking slightly different approaches with them, but yeah, next. As we go along, hopefully everything that is really valuable at the tool site will be moved to the data tracker site. But the tool site is always more agile. I do whatever I want there. So if there's a great new idea, somebody a couple of meetings ago asked for Etherpad. Can we have an Etherpad, please, for the sessions and take collective notes? So I put that up, just like that. To integrate it in the data tracker is a larger process and will happen eventually if people feel that a tool is very valuable. So the www.itf.org is for much information where you will go. If you want to get to know about which meetings will be held in the future, anything that is basically put into plain pages and kept up to date by the Secretariat, you'll find there. And overview information you'll find there. So if you don't specifically know anywhere else to go, this is where you go. The data tracker is the user interface towards the IETF database. This is where all the information is collected about which documents we have, which state they're in, what is happening with them in any way, what working groups we have, what working groups we used to have, etc. All of the information that is presented on the next site, tool site, is derived from information here, or derived in some cases from information I gather from the RFC editor or some other places. But basically this is the database behind this is where the information starts out, wherever it then is massaged and presented in different ways. Yes? Tool site. There are many different tools here. The front page, if you scroll down a little bit, has a list of many of the tools. And if you think that there might be a tool for what you want to do, you might want to go there and see if you can find it. We've tried different ways of organizing this, but now I just put in a descriptive text of the tool and links so you can go on to them. Thank you. Perfect. So, document search, display, and print tools. And with documents in IETF context, we're almost always talking about the RFCs that are the end product of what we do here, standard RFCs and informational RFCs and other classes of RFCs, and drafts. So you may want to get hold of an old or a new RFC or draft in some form. They're provided through various tools in PDF converted forms, in HTML converted forms, or if you may want the plain text forms. They are also now, since yesterday actually, conveniently packaged into packages in ebook format, MOBI and EPUB. Yes? Questions so far? Am I going too fast, too slow? Nobody says anything, thank you. Is this right?
I just went to next.
I think we were actually, it was right, because we wanted to talk about the search.
Yeah.
So I'm going to sit down now and try to illustrate this. The data tracker, front page, first page to get to, you can search for, say, draft-IETF-core. And it will give you a list of documents that start with that string. And since I chose this string to match a particular group of documents that belong to the core working group, that's what I get. But you can actually do much fancier searches. There's let's see, advanced search that will let you focus on different things related to the documents. There is a similar search function on the tools page. What is different here is that you have a search field that actually uses Google search engine, but restricted to only the RFCs and drafts. So can I get a suggestion for a search term here? Okay, let's take something. Santiago. Did you manage to actually know there were some? So there are some documents that actually contain this particular word, which is of no special significance, but just to illustrate that you can also search for arbitrary stuff in the documents. You can also say that please narrow this down to RFCs only, or ECPs only, or etc. The RFC editor and the IETF in general publishes the documents, standards and informational, experimental, etc., and the drafts that lead up to it in plain ASCII format. This is the official format. Sometimes it's really handy to be able to read the document and click through to internal references and external references. And in order to be able to do this, in many places where you look at the document or information about the document, there will be a link to a generated HTML version. Since this is generated, this is not the official document, but it's helpful to have if you want to read it and go back and forth and follow the links. The links are usually marked with HTML, so you know that these are links that will make it easier for you to, shall we scroll down to illustrate some of the links. You have links to the different pages and sections. You can send out links like that in general. Links to references at the bottom of the documents. Links to external RFCs so they can follow those and so on. It's in some cases much easier to read in that format than in any other if you want to go back and forth. But please understand that there may be flaws in these. All the conversions are automatic, so there's no human that sits and actually marks these up, so there may be mistakes in the markup. It's intended as a tool to make it easier, not as a reference. So if you look at the middle of the yellow bar at the top of the slide, the URLs at tools, if you go to the HTML directory and type in something in the URL bar there, it will try to match that string and give you a list of documents that actually matches that string. In this case, I put in after HTML-DHC, and I got 347 documents that are in some way related to the DHCP working group. It's just another small way of easily getting at documents relevant to a certain work. Sometimes people want to print out stuff, and the text format ASCII documents aren't always friendly to be printed. Then it's often a better option to go to a PDF converted document and print that. So that's why there is the PDF conversion tool at tools.ietf.org, and you can get PDF versions. There are some RFCs that are actually published as originally published in text and PDF form, and I think one which is only published in PDF format. So these are conversions, again, for the case where you want to print something and it's really hard to get it placed right on the page if you just take the plain ASCII document. It's not the official reference. Now, over to Alice. We'll talk about...
You can leave that on. Maybe, yeah, this is on. So this is just pointing out from rfceditor.org as another option for getting RFCs. If you want to maintain your own directory of RFCs, there's rsync targets available, which we'll look at, and also if you just want to download all the RFCs, like from 6,000 to 6,500, there are tarballs of 500 sets of 500 RFCs. rfceditor.org is the website for the RFC editor, and I work for the RFC Production Center that edits the RFCs. So this is just showing the rsync targets that are available. So you could get all the text files that are RFCs, or you could get all the PDFs that are RFCs. You can get internet drafts. There are various options. Also from tools.ietf.org, there are rsync targets available as well. The only one that I think is actually different on here is the all text file option. If you like your ASCII RFCs, then rfceditor.org does have that rsync target. And this is what I mentioned, the tarballs. So you can see you can get the old ones all the way to the new ones. So we're past 6,500 now. And this also is available text files, or if you scroll down, you can get them all in PDF. I'm going to talk about draft preparation tools. So this is when you're writing an internet draft, what choices you have. So the first decision you need to make is about what kind of formatting tool you're going to use. There are three primary options, although people do different things. The main ones are shown here. InROF Edit makes an InROF source file. It's available from this website. You can run it, you install it, you run it locally. There is a template for an internet draft, so to get started, it's pretty quick and straightforward. Your knowledge of InROF formatting commands is minimal in order to move forward. And you can automatically create some references and automate the table of contents. Another tool that gets used by about half the people who write internet drafts or more is XML to RFC. And I'll go into a little more on this, but the primary source for getting more information on XML to RFC and InROF Edit is the tools for creating IDs tutorial. So it's a separate tutorial session, goes into a lot more detail on these. You don't have to install XML.rc, you can run it over the web. You can see the comparison here. There is more of a learning curve for XML.rc in order to know the commands to get the output you want versus InROF, which is pretty minimal, in my opinion. There's also a Microsoft Word template available, which is described in RFC 5385 and has the URL where you can get the template. And basically it lets you edit your draft in Microsoft Word and then run some conversions on it, and then you have a plain text file to upload as your internet draft. Different people like different ones based on what tools they're familiar with and how much post-processing they want to do. So this is the post-processing necessary as the bottom row there. And so some people find, I'd rather just be done when I'm done instead of do the post-processing. But so this is xml.resource.org, the website for XML to RFC. This is version 1. If you link right here it says development release, it takes you to version 2. This is new. It's been rewritten from scratch, but it should accept your same old XML source file and work better. But you can, soon we'll switch to this one. But for now you can use this one. It lets you choose your output format. If you're submitting your internet draft to the ID submission tool, you are going to be uploading the plain text file. It also gives you the option to upload your XML source file, which then, if your document were accepted for publication as an RFC, the RFC editor would use that XML file as a starting point. You can see the other options here. And the other option that I mentioned is InROF Edit. This is the main page for it. And this is a screenshot. You can see that it shows you on the left side the InROF file and on the right side the text output. And so it's kind of WYSIWYG. It is WYSIWYG, which is nice. Different from editing the XML. Sorry? Once you've written your draft, then you have more tools that you can use to help get your draft into good shape. So IDMIT is one I'll show, creating diff files, so that's comparing one version of the draft to the next version of the draft so you can talk about what's changed. And a spell checker, that's IETF specific. So this is the IDMIT page, and it lets you browse and select your file, and then it looks like this. You can tell it how verbose you want it to be. But it's basically going to try to enforce ID guidelines, internet draft guidelines, on your draft and give you these messages about what's going on with your draft. yeah. Without content, maybe you have more to say on this.
Yes. If you write your first draft, it's a 0-0 draft, you just want to submit it and get some comments. You don't need to have everything perfect according to IETF. You can run it in a separate mode that is much more lenient and only enforces or tells you about the guidelines that people really want to have when you submit. Now, if your document goes on and is accepted by a working group and goes on to the ISG, they have many more things they would like your document to conform to. And then it's a good idea to run this and make sure that there's no warnings or errors left. But for just to get that document out there, to get some comments on it, the first version, you don't necessarily need to make it everything perfect according to all the warnings and mentions and whatever comes out of the most strict IDNIT version. So please, it's much more important to get your ideas out than to be absolutely neat perfect for the first one.
This is the RFC diff tool, which lets you select 2 files and then what kind of diff file you want. So side-by-side diff is the one that I'm going to show next, but one that you see often if you use the tools pages to look at HTML versions of Internet drafts or RFCs. At the top it says diff1, diff2, and diff1 is HTML WDiff, I believe, and diff2 is the side-by-side diff, which uses multiple colors and shows only where things have changed, as opposed to HTML WDiff, which will show the entire document and the changes will be in red and green. Although here it lets you change the red and green. So this lets you do various things to make the diff file of your pleasure. And you can do files you have saved locally, or you can put in a URL here. So here's what a side-by-side diff would look like.
No. Yes.
This is
the RFC diff tool I wrote originally because I got so tired of reading a document again and again and again, not knowing if there's just 2 words that changed or a whole section. And I put it on tools, but now we have also migrated it over to the regular IETF pages, so now it's in both places. You can go to either one. There's the same functionality behind it. It's just, yeah.
It was mature. The tool was mature enough that it graduated. So this is the example of the side-by-side diff comparing 2 versions of the same Internet draft. So you can see it's using one color for highlighting lines and then other colors for the actual change. And it also provides page and line numbers. Yes?
Is there an option to stop deleting sections that aren't different?
The question is whether there's an option for the side-by-side tool to make it not delete or take out the stuff that is the same. I don't think I have that. I think I can easily put it in.
That's an example of how the tools for IETF develop over time as people ask, can you make it do this? Because I want it for this. And various tools developers, including Henrik, can make it do what is wanted. This is a spell checker that is a web service, so you can put your file in there and check it, and it's based on a list compiled from recently published documents.
Yes, it's actually, it takes the basic word list that is distributed with Debian for regular English words, Then it goes to the RFCs, collect words and words that occur in RFCs with more than a certain frequency. It will also add to that list. It will do the same for drafts from the last year, words that occur in drafts from last year with more than a certain frequency. It will also add it. You have to do a cutoff so you don't add misspellings in the draft to the accepted word list.
Just an option from using your typical spell checker. And this is if your internet draft contains code. So you probably already are aware of these if you are writing an internet draft that contains, for example, a Yang module or a MIB module. The ops area provides tools for checking MIBs and Yang. If your document contains ADNF syntax, there are many parsers available. Specifically, if your document makes its way through the whole process and is approved for publication as an RFC, the RFC editor will use specific tools to check that the code contained in your document is well formed. So for ADNF or even valid. So the ADNF parser we use is this one, Bill's ADNF parser, available from the tools site. XML lint comes installed already. SMICNG is one of the MIB review tools that's on the operations area site that's there. And Yang, if you're writing a document containing Yang module, you're probably already aware. But I just wanted to point out that the tools also include verification tools. Back to Henrik. Working group tools.
Yes. So, thank you. So there are various working group tools. Originally only on tools.itf.org, now also in the data tracker. Status pages for the working group, individual documents, status pages, wikis, issue tracker, session agendas, minutes, marked up with the document and material links, etc. Here is the data tracker page for the HTTP BIS working group. Oh, don't get too close to the camera. You see a list of the active documents. You see a list of the RFCs published from working this group. You see a list of related documents. It can go on like that. At the top you have links to other pages related to the working group, like the charter page, link for work group chairs to manage the workflow of the working group, manage delegations to secretaries, etc. Manage document shepherds. When a document is going to be sent up to the ISP, you assign a shepherd to it to make sure that it actually goes through the process and isn't lost anywhere. History of the working group and a link to the archive of the working group mailing list. And a link to the tool page. Yep. This is then the status page for a particular document. In this case, use of the content disposition header field in the hypertext transfer protocol, draft IETF HTTP BIS concept BIS. It's now in 09, and we see that it's actually being published as RC 6266, and there's more information here if you want it and need it. This is the history page for that document. It will show with the most recent events at the top what happened to this document, when there were new revisions, when actions were taken by the shepherd or ISP, etc. So you can trace back, and if you wonder why was it held up during 6 months and apparently nothing happened, maybe the history will tell you that, yeah, there were some discussions here. There were a comment from an air director that really pointed out a serious problem, and they had to discuss and solve it and something. Here you can see the comments from the area director when it was with ISG for approval. And it will give you insight in what kind of comments the ISG has on a document. If it's a document that is actually being processed, it will tell you, if you're an author, what needs to be addressed. If the ISG says that, well, yes, this is good, but look here, the comment will be in the ESG evaluation record. There is also a link to the agenda of the current meeting and previous meetings in the data tracker. And we have basically the same thing, the same kind of pages on tools. The history page isn't there. On the other hand, there are wiki pages and issue trackers. If your working group elect to use the issue tracker and puts in issues related to the various documents, the status of the issues will be reflected here, so you can see how many handled and unhandled issues there are for each document, and you will get varying amounts of green there to indicate whether you're in good shape or not. For one particular document, you again have the issue indication, and you have links going back to various formats for this, for the various versions. Not that accelerating, but you have the agenda again linked in from the workbook page. The difference here with what's on the data tracker is that it tries to collect the information about the audio stream and chat room and slides, etc., all in the same place, and it marks up the links so you can actually follow them, while they are sometimes only text format in the plain agenda. You have a minutes page if there are minutes. If there are no minutes, then you get a page with an iframe that lets you do note-taking collaboratively. It's the Etherpad Lite tool. The issue tracker gives you options to see various reports. Again, the HTTP working group, they are using the issue tracker quite a bit, and here's the active tickets by component. Each component is a draft they are processing, and you can see that they have some issues that have been closed, but not a lot. They are processing things very orderly. Each working group also has a news feed that will tell you when there are new versions of the working group documents. This was put in several years ago, and it's now more or less being superseded by a new tool in the data tracker that is more flexible and where you can configure your absolutely own individual news feed with news from the precise working groups or specific drafts that you want to follow. For some people, it is really, really useful to be able to reach the workgroup chairs without having to remember the addresses explicitly. or to reach the authors of a document without having to remember the addresses explicitly. So tools provides aliases for the NIC4 working group, for instance. There's the NIC4 chairs alias at tools.IETF.org, which will respond to the current chairs. Actually, we don't see the draft aliases. There are equivalents of this. There are aliases, so if you put in the draft name, draft-IETF-core true at tools.IETF.org, that will, if it is a valid draft, expand to the authors of that draft. ISG-related pages. So your nice draft goes through the process and ends up with a ISG. It will be on their agenda at some point. You may want to look whether it's now on the agenda or scheduled for a later ISG agenda. And you can also look whether a work group is being charted in which you're interested. So this is the agenda for the August 16 ISG session. There's not a lot on it yet, but a few documents. So at any time you can go in and see what they're going to talk about and when the next ISG meeting is going to be. So you can... Yes?
What is that right there?
Oh, this is a little indicator, actually, because we don't have default magnification on here. It doesn't show up quite right. This is a little indicator. For each document, it will show how many of the area directors have read it and find that they are okay with it progressing. And you will see also, if we scroll down, we can see if there are any documents that have discussed it where an area director feels that there are points here that need further discussion and really is questioning whether this is the right way. No, there's no right now. But it's a quick way of seeing the status of what the area directors are thinking about this document, whether they have processed it individually and marked it off or not. Or, yeah. Documents on future agendas. The agendas are listed with the closest up coming up first and then later agendas. Right now I'm not sure whether there are many later agendas to show because they haven't actually been so close to meeting. I don't know if they have decided when the next ISG meeting will be, but if you scroll down we can see if there are any more. There's 1, 8:30, and yeah, there's some on later agendas also. So that will let you see if a document has been scheduled for discussion, even if it's not on the very next ISG meeting. Relatively new tool on the data tracker is the tool for managing workgroup formation, workgroup charters. We see that they have a proposed new working group called Dataset Identifier Interoperability, DSII, which is being discussed. There are versions of the charter. If you click on that link, you will get to the charter and be able to see in a similar manner as for the draft, the history of the charter, what changes has occurred, etc. Meeting-related tools. I'm going to break off a little bit here and ask for questions, comments.
I'm Kevin Gross, and you said there was a separate tutorial for ID offers. Can you tell me when that is? I didn't find it on the screen.
Yep. It is not being held this IETF meeting, but the slides are available. If you go to rfc-editor.org, it's on the front page. There's a link to tools for creating IDs.
Thank you.
Sandy Murphy, Sparta. First, I would like to find out from you whether or not I am your most frequent correspondent in terms of asking questions on the tools list. I seem to ask a lot. Apologies if I'm creating problems.
It's okay. There are other people that are just as frequent, and it doesn't bother me, so feel free to go on.
Okay. Your slide about the aliases for draft authors and such brought to mind a problem that I had communicated to you earlier. I'm not dinging you in public. I am not asking for a change. I understand the problem. I just thought perhaps it might be good for people to recognize that the way that the tools team expands those aliases does alert some very rigid mail handlers about the SPF handling and stuff. And in my working group, it's a concern because one of those very rigid mail handling systems is one that many draft authors in my working group are affected by,
Okay, I have good news.
Yeah.
I've been having some discussions, in particular with Pete Resnick, and he has suggested a way to not touch any of the header fields, but to do rewriting of the envelope sender, which should solve this.
Okay.
So they have put together an announcement that will tell you about this, but they decided to not rock the boat right before the meeting, so it will come out.
Here I come, rocking the boat.
No. It's a perfectly valid comment, and I'm happy to be able to say that yes, we're fixing it.
Okay. And the other comment is, for someone who's been involved in the IETF, those people who have come to the IETF later don't understand just how huge a benefit all the tool stuff is. Incredibly huge. So thank you and everybody else involved with the tool thing. And next time in the IETF tutorial timing, if you could find a way to get them not to have this overlap, the meet and greet, where the working group chairs are kind of urged strongly to attend, which means I'm going to have to miss the latter part of the session. And newcomers. Newcomers won't be able to...
Yeah.
Yes, right.
I also reflected on that people might be forced to choose between the meet and greet for newcomers or this, and that's unfortunate, but yeah. Well,
okay.
Thank you. Any other questions now that we're rolling? Okay. So, meetings. Although a lot of work is done on the mailing list and writing documents, the meetings should also be easy to get through and get to what you want. So we have some tools, HTML, session agendas, gather rooms, meeting materials, room locations, etc. There are basically you have several choices for the agenda. You have the converted plain text agenda that has probably the most links to various tools you might want. If you scroll down here, it's linked in from the left-hand sidebar of the tools site. So if you scroll down, you'll see that for every session, there's a link that will, it doesn't quite yet because we haven't managed to put up the maps yet, but it will show your room location on a map. There's a link to the working group page. There's a link to a downloadable package of materials. There's a link to the audio stream. There's a link to the meeting note page. There's a link to the Jabber room. There's a link to the Jabber archive. There's a link that lets you mark in the color of your choice this particular session, so you can recognize it when you go back to that page. And there's a link to the agenda of the meeting, of the working group. So there are other versions of the agenda. They have other features. This is the version on the data tracker. Different formatting, but a lot of the same information. It has one nice thing which you can do, that's not what we want here. Okay, I'll show you here then. If you select, say that I want to follow certain sessions and mark them off here, you will get a week view that shows you where those sessions are on a calendar, and you will also be able to download an calendar file to put in your own calendar. This is a very nice little thing that was put together by another tool writer called Adam Roach. There is an equivalent old calendar generator, but that's much clunkier hack, and now that we have the one I just showed you, this one can probably be considered as obsolete. Yeah, here we are again with a week view and iCal file link. A lot of workgroup chairs provide the agenda in plain text format, so it's also nice to have them with links, which is generated and linked in from the workgroup page. This was an example of that. Oh, since 3 meetings back, we also have an iPad and iPhone app for the meetings. So if you want to have everything in an app, that will give it to you for each meeting. It's been regularly updated and enhanced by the developer. So if you, if you want something which isn't already there, then grab the app, check it up, and write to the developer. He's quite responsive.
There's also one for Android, but it's a different developer, and I'm not familiar with the Android app.
Okay, I didn't know that, but that's good. Notification services. I showed you the RSS feed from the tools workgroup pages earlier. Now we'll look at some other options. We have the very nice automatically generated daily dose of the IETF, which I know several area directors use to get a daily view of what has happened during the last 24 hours with the stuff that I'm interested in. There are some links in here to RSS feeds which you can grab, right? And also a lot of the links can expand to give you more information inline. It's a nice tool. Yes? Then there is a tool that we deployed only 3 weeks ago, I think, that lets you, if you create a login on the data tracker, you will be able to say that I want to follow these specific drafts and the draft related to that specific work group, and then you can get emails about things happening there, or you can get an RSS feed, or you can go there and just look at the status of those specific documents. Tool builder tools. There's not a lot I want to show here, because there are oodles of old text style, tab separated or comma separated or whatever files that people have been using earlier to write tools. If you go and dig, you will find them. But what is going to happen now is that we're going to enhance the data tracker so that you will be able to pull any information which is in the data tracker, any table filtered as you want, in JSON format. And that, I hope to have that out in maybe 1 or 2 months. So if you are thinking of building a tool, don't start out with the old tab separated files that you will find around. Instead, I'll try to send out a notification on the IETF list when this option of using the JSON extract from the data tracker is available, because it will be much nicer for everyone. Questions? Comments? For Alice or me? Is there anything you haven't seen that you would like to have? Yes?
I briefly showed it earlier, but the URL
Okay. If you go 2 steps forward, 3 steps forward, I think.
This is similar to the piece of paper that there might be some left in the back that was passed around at the beginning. A sheet of paper with the URLs that have been mentioned during this presentation.
One more.
And there's the URL for the tutorial.
Any other tools that you haven't seen that you would like to have? I mean, you have a fresh new view of this. This is a wonderful opportunity to get ideas that haven't already been circulated in the community for ages. No? Okay. Please. Yes?
My name is Deepika Khazaria, and this is actually my first time in IETF, which is why I'm here, and I come from the server world. So in there, when we are submitting and publishing research papers, Google has this really cool feature, scholar.google.com, where we can track what previous ideas a certain research paper is built on top of. So essentially, it helps you navigate what references they have used and what they have built on. So when I'm going through RFCs, I know that they say that there are these related RFCs that are in the same area, or we have borrowed ideas from them. Is there a tool that helps you navigate that more easily instead of going through the RFC text?
So basically you're asking for a navigable tree of RFC references and interrelations.
Yes.
There isn't. I've thought of it, but I haven't built it. So that's input on what would be appreciated then. What I have recently built, but not actually put into, okay, so the HTML version of the RFC and drafts contain in the HTML Dublin core meta information that Google uses to fetch title and relationships between documents. I have recently improved the parser I have for text documents so it will actually pull out references to other documents. But I haven't put that into Dublin core metadata yet. If I do that, Google will be able to more correctly link things together. But I will see if we can also do a tool here to show relationships more easily and follow the links. Thank you. Okay, then thanks to Alice, who was instrumental in helping me put together this for this presentation. And thank you all for listening. And please email me. You'll find my email all over the place. Email me if you have ideas or questions or wishes for enhancements. I really appreciate getting them. Thank you.